with another Visual Basic game programming tutorial. This time we're going to cover audio and sound effects, how to play multiple sounds at once. I'm going to be using the mciSendString, which is part of the Windows Multimedia API. So I'll be showing you how to do this. What we're going to essentially do is create a class for sound that you can implement into your game and try to make it as dynamic as possible so you can control it after the fact and create multiple objects and whatnot. So let's go ahead and get started here. Okay, we'll start by going to our Solution Explorer, right-clicking, and we'll add a new class. I'm going to call that class SoundVB. Now, before I get started here, the reason I want to use the Windows Multimedia API is because it's built into pretty much every Windows box after 2000, I think. So I didn't want to deal with third-party APIs and stuff with DLLs that require special licensing to distribute, or some of them are freely distributable, but they come with little gotchas if you ever want to sell your program or things like that. So I'm just going to try to keep it easy here and just get us something going here that we can use in our game. So I'm going to start out with a function to call that API. I'm just going to paste in what I have here and then I'll try to explain it. It's just essentially we're going to do a public declare function mciSendString, bring in the library winmm.dll, and the alias mciSendString a. We're going to pass it a few parameters. I don't know really what all these different parameters are for. We've got a looks like a handle to the window, callback here, return length, return string, and the command. The ones we're mainly going to be working with are the command string. That's very important, and the other ones will probably mostly just be zeros when we set them. So anyway, that's our that's our declaration for that library. So we've got LP string command as a string, LP string return string as a string, U return length as an integer, and HWND callback as an integer, and then we're returning the function as an integer. So you want to keep those in mind when you're writing that. So we'll get started here by doing a private oname as a string, and I'm just going to set that to nothing. This is just going to be the name of our sound effect. This will give us something to control it with once we've created it. That's going to be really important. So this will be a public property that can be modified from our form code, and we're just going to set it to public property name, and it's going to be a string value. Okay, so to set and get the property, just type in set, hit enter, and it should pre-populate this for you. And we're going to take that oname variable that we created and set it to value. That'll allow us to set the name of the class. And then for our get, we'll just return oname. So whatever's stored in this variable will be returned, and you can use that if you ever want to call it later on to see what file's playing or something. Next up, we will create essentially just the guts of this, which is going to be the play sub. So let's go ahead and jump into that. There are numerous parameters that we can dump into our mciSendString, but we're only going to focus on the few that'll probably be most useful to us. So I'm going to start out. I'm going to create a public sub, and I'm just going to call it play. And I'm going to pass 3 parameters to it: the ID of the song or sound effect that we want to play, whether we want it to repeat or not, and then a volume parameter. So we'll start out with byval ID as integer. Then we'll do a byval repeat as a boolean. And then the volume control I'm going to set as an optional parameter. By default I'll just have it on max volume, but if there's ever a point in your game where you'd want to change the volume, sometimes when you bring up a menu you kind of want to fade the music in the background or something, this will allow us to control that. So it's just sort of looking ahead. So I'm going to set this as an optional value and just call it vol as integer for the volume. Now the maximum volume for this parameter is 1000, so 0 to 1000, anything in between there should work. 0 being off and 1000 being max. What I'm going to do is say, I'm going to create 2 different mciSendStrings, one for repeating and one for not repeating. Generally in a game the background music will repeat over and over and over per level or per instance or area. So a sound effect like a chicken or something like that, you're only going to want to play once usually. So what we'll do is we'll say if repeat equals true, then we'll create our mciSendString, and all these parameters are going to exist within this sort of contiguous string. So we'll just be tacking on different functions to the string. The first one is going to be the open, and so make sure you put a space in there. We gotta lay it out properly, otherwise it's gonna kind of choke on us. What I'm gonna use for this is a function called getFile, because this is one of the first limitations of this mciSendString, is that you can't, unfortunately, play from a stream, which is kind of a bummer. I think that performance is typically better when streaming the audio instead of loading the entire thing into memory off disk. That's kind of unfortunate, and even if you want to play from a resource, you can't do that without writing it back to the disk and then opening the file from there. So just one of the little irritating gotchas of this particular library. So basically we're going to tell it to open getFile by this ID here. Okay, so we're going to create a file library next. So this it's not going to like it until we actually create that library. The alias is very important. This is what we're going to use for the name, and it's going to allow us to come back and control this even after it's been created. So for the alias, I'm going to and name, okay? And then it wants these other parameters that I don't really do anything with, so I'm just going to say mciString 0, 0, and 0, and that's it. So that's the first part, and now the second and equally important part will be SendString. This time, instead of calling open, we're going to call the play method of this, and we'll select our own name again. Once you've opened the file, you don't need that file name anymore. It's all on this alias. So oname and repeat, because we told it to repeat, right? Make sure you put a space here. All these have to have a space between the parameters, otherwise it chokes on you. Again, I'm going to do my C-string here, 0, throw a couple more zeros in there, and it should be happy. So, to go over this again, we're going to, if it's repeating, if we tell it to repeat, then it's going to open the file, then play it with a repeating value. Okay? Else, if we don't want it to repeat, we're going to do this exact same thing. I'm going to copy that and paste it down here, except we're not going to have the repeat. Alright, so that's really all there is to it. I guess we better deal with the volume too. I'm going to say optionally set volume. Okay, so we'll do one last mciSendString set audio space and oname and space volume 2 space and the volume. So whatever we get from our parameter here, the default is going to be 1000, so it's always going to be max by default, but we can set it down if we want. And I'm going to C-string on this, set my zeros, and it's ready to go. All we need now is a media library. Okay? So this is essentially where we're going to set the path to all of our sounds, the paths really. So library, I'm going to do a private, because we only need to call this from within the class, function get file. We're passing the parameter ID, right? As an integer. Ah! My awesome typing skills. As a string. Okay? So the way I'm going to handle this is a lot like, if you saw my other tutorials, we're doing a get source rectangle. We're going to kind of do a similar thing here, where we're going to set up a select case to grab the ID that we can call from our form anytime we want and get the desired sound effects. And we're going to return the path to that sound effect from your disk. So I'm going to dim path as string, and I'm going to return the path. Okay? Now this is where it gets really irritating. Not really hard, just irritating. Some things to remember, and I'm going to go ahead and write some notes here. MCI hates spaces. Okay? Spaces will cause failure to load your file if there's a space in your file name. So if your file is, say, file space name dot wave, it's going to choke. So we're going to have to actually add a set of quotes around our file name, actually our path, which brings me to another irritating thing. So I'm going to go ahead and just write that spaces cause failure to load. Add quotes. Okay, so that's one irritating thing. The next thing is dots in the path can cause failure to load. And I actually ran into this one. I couldn't find it in the documentation anywhere, but I figure out that it actually reads the dot as the beginning of the file extension or part of the file name. So you know, if you have a folder, if you've got something like C:, this is my folder, and have, you know, song.wave in there, it's going to crash. It's going to read this and think, oh, your file extension is way too long, so there's something wrong with this path. There actually is, in one of my folders, because I'm on a domain here, and in the domain name is a dot, and it actually causes a failure on my profile, so I have to actually put mine in the root. You shouldn't have to do that on most systems. You should, you know, typically when you install software, it's going to go into like C:, you know, program files, or if you're on a 64-bit machine, you may have something like, you know, x86 in there. You know, it'll be something like that, and these spaces will cause it to crash, but what's going to happen is we're going to add quotes in our code below, so it'll throw something like that on there. So dots in the path can cause failure to load. Another irritation, very long paths will cause failure to load. So I think the maximum amount of characters in your path is like 255. I may have to verify that, but I think that's the max length. Some people are actually forcing their program to get the short DOS names or short DOS paths, which isn't always a good idea, because you can have two similarly named programs, and that could cause a failure to load as well. If those path names are similar, it'll put like a tilde or something, tilde1, tilde2. So pain. But this should work for, you know, in most settings. Just by adding those quotes, we should be able to load the sound just fine. So what we're going to do is do a select case on our ID, and say like case 0, case 1, case 2. You know, these could be whatever you want. Say, you know, this could be your chicken sound, you know, a horse says. You know, it could be whatever you want. I'm just going to load up a few of the sound files that I've created just as a test. So I'll do path, because we're returning the path, equals C:, 7.wave. Now here's a couple other things. Like I said, it's not hard, it's just irritating. You can't use relative paths. They will cause a failure to load. So you can't just say, instead of calling the entire path C: program files, my application name, and my media folder, and then the WAV file or MP3 file or whatever, you know, instead of doing that, I want to just call, you know, chicken.mp3. You can't do that. You can't use the relative path for your application folder. I think that is absolutely ridiculous, but it forces you to use the entire path. I guess I should just leave that in the notes. Must have full path. I had another one, but I lost it in my attention span. Oh, yes. Another irritating thing that I have just recently discovered is that if you are using WAV files, this repeat will not work and will cause it to fail. I guess that's another thing I have to note. WAV files will fail to load if repeat equals true. So that this file here will not repeat. So if you're using for your songs and stuff, I would use a something like MP3 or WMA or something like that. So I'm going to do another path, pipedream.mp3. That's one thing I do like about this particular library, is that it handles most common audio formats, which is good, so we don't need any special third-party goodies to launch like MP3 files and things like that. So I'm going to load up one of each of these. Oh, you see what I did wrong here? I was going to try a relative path. Fail. Gotta call that full path to the file. Testing .wma, and last but not least, path equals c:\awakening dot mp3, not mo3. Okay, last but not least, we need to add those quotes to our path name. We can't just do it like this, or it thinks that's part of the string. So what we'll do is we'll just say character 34, which is a double quote, concatenate it with the path, then put another at the end. Okay, so this will return path in quotes. And put a green line here because we didn't actually set a value up here. I'm just going to set that to a blank. And we're ready to rock and roll. Our get file is now happy. So it's going to get file, pass the ID down here, the ID of our sound effect, whatever we want. Pipedream test file. It could be chickens, horses, boats, guns, whatever. Those are all that's how you load your sound effects. So really all there is left to do is call this class from our form. So I'll go ahead and double click on the form and come up here, and the first thing we'll do is track how many sound effects we have running at once, or how many times we've launched our sound effects. So I'm going to dim int sound as an integer, and I'm going to say equals 0, and then we're going to call our sound class. So I'm going to dim snd as new sound. Alright, that was pretty easy. Now we just need a way to launch this. So I don't really want to launch it on form load. I think I'm going to select the form's click event. So each time I click the form, it launches a new instance of the sound, and I will demonstrate that you can play multiple sounds simultaneously with this. So we'll start out by incrementing int sound by 1. Okay, so each time we click the form, it's going to create a new sound, and what we'll do is we'll append this int sound to the alias, so we'll be able to control each one however we want. you know, if you're running this in a game, you're going to want to have control over your sound effects and stuff. So what we'll do is we'll set some parameters for our sound class object. Really, all we have is the name, which we have the alias. I'm going to call it sound, and then I'm going to concatenate that with the int sound. Okay, so every time we click the form, we get a new alias with the number of the sounds. So it'll be sound 1, sound 2, sound 3, just like that. And then, last but not least, we will call our play sub. We'll select the ID. So I'm going to grab a sound effect that I want. I'm going to do a pipedream here. Play 1. Do I want it to repeat true or false? I'll say false, and I'm going to just leave the volume at the default 1000. So I'm going to not put anything in that optional third parameter. Now, when I click my form, it should play my sound. So that's working. What happens if I click it again? Oh, you can hear, I don't know if you can hear that well. I can sit there and keep clicking and it just keeps playing right over the top of itself with new sounds, so I know that it's working properly. You know, we could try another one. I could try my test, which is just me saying testing. Whoops, I grabbed the wrong one. I grabbed 3. That was 2. So, click that. Testing. So I could sit there and keep clicking that. Yes, that's interesting. Alright. One thing that would be nice, you know, say your character's roaming around the countryside and you enter a town, alright, and all of a sudden you're switching from the overland music to the town music. You're going to want a way to stop whatever's playing and start a new soundtrack. So I think what we'll do is go back to our sound class and add a way to stop the sound that we've started. So I'm going to do that here. So we're going to add a public sub. I'm going to call it kill with the parameter of the song name, which is our alias, since that's how we control our sound effects. And all I'm going to do is do my mciSendString and call its close method. Put a space in there, and then add our alias, which is the song. Then you can do the parameters here. mciString, okay, and 0 and 0. And I'm going to go ahead and set oname equals nothing. Try to clean up our mess after we're done. So it's going to wipe out the song when we do this. It's really just going to kill it. After we're done there, we can go back to our form code and make a sub here. Called sound. And I won't even, you know, add any parameters on that. What we'll do here is, you know, since basically int sound is keeping a record of all the sounds that we created, we'll just loop from 0 to the top of that value and just kill them all, anything that's running back there. You may not want to kill all the sounds, but really, if you're, you know, zoning from one area to another, typically all the sound stops and then a new set of sounds loads. So this actually could be applicable for your game. I'm going to say for x equals 0, 2, int sound. Okay, so if we have 30 sounds playing at once, heaven forbid, this will loop, x will be 0 through 30. So I'll just say I'm going to take our sound class that we created up here and use its kill method and whatever the song name is. Well, what's the song name? All of our sounds here are being created with sound and int sound. So what we'll do is say sound, concatenate on the x, and that's it. That's all there is to it, to kill all the sounds that are playing at once. All we got to do is call this halt sound, and it'll loop through all of the playing sounds and just cut them off by their alias. So let's go to our form real fast, add a button, call it cmd kill, go down to the text, say kill music or kill sound effects or whatever you want. Come in here, call our halt sound, and let's give it a try here. Okay, so I got a bunch of these sounds running here. I can kill it and it shuts off. That was that testing wave. Come up here, put that on 1, play it, get a whole bunch of these all wrapped up. Okay, and kill it. It works. Good. That's really all there is to it. You know, we could also monkey with the volume. We weren't using that optional parameter, so what if we wanted to just play that, you know, say I open a menu in my game and I want the sound, the background music to sort of fade down a little bit. I could set that to like 400, play it, and you should be able to hear that. It's a lot quieter than before. Could even set it lower if I wanted. So yeah, that's working good. So that's how we create a sound class and run it into our form. So you know, I hope that this helps you guys get your, you know, sound implemented in your game. You know, you can, any questions you have, you can fire my way like you usually do. So I wish you all well, take care, and good luck.